Recently widowed Mary feels something needs to change, but she is not sure what. She decides to sell her home in Sydney and move to a retirement village in sunny Queensland. Mary has always enjoyed her own company and struggles with the many personalities she encounters in the village. There are two things Mary won't tolerate: idiots and nasty women. Unfortunately for her, the village is full of them. Has Mary made a mistake, or will she find something wonderful? Oh, hello there. Welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. Today's video, in case the title and the fact that I just read a book synopsis didn't already give it away, is another book review. The book in question this time being Not Dead Yet by Hayley Walsh. Yeah, I decided to pick up another book from an author from Down Under. This time, one whose day job is aged care specialist. Someone who specializes in handling the health concerns of older generations. This book in particular is inspired by the many anecdotes and revelations that Hayley Walsh's patients have revealed either to her or within her vicinity. The main character is named Mary Gibson, and she finds herself having and struggling to rebuild or remake her life once she has after she has recently become a widow. A pretty tall task even under general circumstances. However, over the course of this book, various events from her past come back up again, and she has to deal with those as well. Some of these dealings are made somewhat easier by the move that this synopsis describes. Others are made a little bit more difficult. And in case anyone is curious, the move that the synopsis actually describes occurs about halfway through the book, so it's not really as big of a plot point as the book really makes it out to be. Another thing the synopsis leaves out is that there are various flashback chapters within this book as well. Most of these flashback chapters are told from the perspective of Mary herself, and focus mainly on her youth or around that specific time frame. But various other characters also pitch in order to present what their life and developments are actually like. What do these flashback chapters contain? Well, how Mary met her friends, her first date with her future husband, their wedding night, various other things like that, normie stuff, which, while limited in scope, end up carrying a large degree of significance, especially to Mary herself. So yeah, in case you haven't been able to tell, this book is very much emotionally driven. Not unlike some other books I have already reviewed, where the main conflict is primarily emotional or is carried out primarily in the emotional plane. Unlike those books, however, this book is able to pace its revelations and its developments much better. Everything that the reader needs to find out, they find out just when they need to, and it is done in a very refreshing, very deliberate manner. You always know what's going on through Mary's head, and all that information and all of the developments that causes within Mary herself are presented in a way that is very attentive, very empathetic, and very precise. I could almost say clinically precise. It is a very captivating read from that point of view. Other aspects of the story are a little bit more hit and miss. The plotting, for instance, while I have said it, as you might have guessed from the way I've described this book being written, is actually very thrilling, but also very minimal. it only becomes obvious in hindsight, when you realize, oh, this needed to happen, and then this needed to happen, and then this needed to happen, and you see it laid out before you. But you don't really build that map while you're reading it, which makes it quite a bit more interesting. Though there are some things that do in fact come out of nowhere and are not particularly narratively meaningful, I would say. But still, overall, plotting is fine. And then, as for characterization and character development, Mary, obviously as the main character, receives the lion's share of it. But various other characters also receive their moments under the sun. Not all of the other characters have names, but of the ones that do, pretty much all of them have at least one aspect that makes them memorable, for better or for worse. no matter how brief their appearances are. Unfortunately, there are also some discrepancies when it comes to characterization, and they come up mainly with characters that show up over longer stretches of the book. The most egregious one, I'm gonna mention it right here, and it's gonna be a spoiler. So if you want to go into this book completely blind, you can skip over to the next chapter. Anyway, the most egregious example of a character inconsistency is when Mary decides to join a new book club, and her reaction upon finding out what the book to be discussed at the next meeting is she has no active recollection of reading it, but she has a recollection of having seen a miniseries based on the book at some point, and hopes that counts. Mary, you're a retired English teacher. At this point, you would have spent decades telling your students that just watching an adaptation is not enough. How have you become this sloppy? And it's not just as a this doesn't just surprise me as her, because she was used to be a teacher, but because reading is very much her passion, and in fact it has been her most steadfast passion ever since her age was in the single-digit range. How has she now become this this careless when it comes to her main interest? Like, I know this is a petty complaint, but it's one that still bothers me. As for other aspects of the story, they are mainly tied into things like descriptions, settings, and general world building, which are quite minimalist, if I may say so myself. I could almost go forward and say they are bland. Environments are really only described if their description is in some way absolutely necessary. But otherwise, there is next to no description. If the action takes place in a town hall, the description we get is it's a town hall. If it takes place in a hospital, the description we get is it's a hospital. If it takes place around a pond, then the only description we get about it is it's a pond. It's there. This is not really bad in and of itself, but I have to admit, while reading this, I did find myself missing Liz Holland's more vivid and evocative description style, and this really could have helped spice up the book and make it more more engaging, or at least that's what I think of it. Overall, while I recognize that this book takes a few steps back, it takes many more steps forward, and the respect and care that went into creating this book really makes it worth anyone's while. My final rating for Not Dead Yet is a 3 out of 5. And that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and maybe even share it wherever you think other people will like it as well. If you have anything you'd like to add to any part of what I just said, the comment section awaits your input. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My own book, Heir to the Empire of the Next Generation, is available at most major book retailers under a master link in the description down below. Right past my social media, which I also suggest you check out, should you feel so inclined. Until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.